Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Art for Engineers. My name is Erin, and I am here today to help you discover your inner artist. Trust me when I say that you have one. Everybody has one. I think we have this story that we tell ourselves that artists are these tortured souls who have this innate natural ability, and if you don't have an innate talent for drawing, then you're not an artist. That is baloney. Yes, there are a few people who meet that standard, but honestly, art is like everything else. A little bit of hard work, a couple tips, a couple tricks. Trust me when I say you'll be on your way to artistic expression and creativity in no time. You might be wondering, why is it called Art for Engineers? Well, I don't know about you, but where I went to undergrad at UCLA, we had a bunch of science classes for everyone in the humanities, just fill those general education requirements. And we called them things like physics for poets or physics for engineers. Physics for future presidents, excuse me. But there was not really an equivalent going the other direction. There were no art classes for engineers, right? Just to teach you the basics and get a general appreciation of enjoying art, creating art. So that's what we're setting out to do today, is teach you the fundamentals of how to draw. And when I say fundamentals, I mean fundamentals. Today we are going to start with just a line. I know, you're probably thinking to yourself, but I want to learn how to draw a rose, or I want to learn how to draw a unicorn, or a kaiju fighting a robot in the middle of the Pacific. Whatever it is, you'll get there. I promise, but you can't skip ahead. So starting with lines and pencils today, and in the next couple lessons, we'll keep moving forward. A little bit about myself. So I was a science major. I did science for years, never took art classes, never really thought that I had any artistic talent myself, but sometime in my mid-20s, I finally got the courage to pick up a pencil, and I'm so glad that I did. That meant that I was fairly self-taught from the beginning, and it was a lot of slogging through. But thankfully, I had an advisor in grad school who was incredible in teaching me the basics of art and basically starting from the beginning. So I went on to teach other people how to draw and the basics of design and art, and I'm really happy to share all that information with you today. So shall we get started? Okay, sounds good. So I have in front of me just a few basic tools, pencils only. Pens, paints, everything else, that'll come later, but we gotta start with just pencils. A word about pencils. So as you know, the lead in your pencil, it's not actually lead, right? It's graphite, but it's also graphite mixed with clay. So you get these different gradients and ratios of how much clay versus how much graphite is in your pencil lead. That is marked on different kinds of pencils by the indication of H's and B's, hardness and softness essentially, and then numbers associated. So in the middle, we have an example here. We have an HB. That's a pretty even ratio of soft to hard. And we'll just start drawing a line with an HB pencil. So when I say start drawing lines, I really mean just move from left to right and enjoy the process of moving your pencil across the page. There's something that really happens when you slow down, right? You can go through these exercises really quickly. You can speed through them and you can just slash lines across the page, but that's kind of missing the point. The real intent behind this exercise is to get you comfortable with your hand. When I say your hand, I mean it's like your signature, right? Every artist has their own style, their own hand. It's not anyone else's, it's yours, and it's like a signature. So the sooner you can get comfortable with this idea that what you do is going to look different than what somebody else does, the better, because it's extremely liberating, right? You don't have to worry that your line looks different than somebody else's line. That's the point. If we all drew everything exactly the same, it'd be pretty boring, actually. Okay, in addition, when you slow down with these exercises, one thing that you discover is that you can find a lot of nuance and a lot of interest in your lines that you wouldn't see if you were just speeding across the page. Do you see how this line has a bit of a shake to it? I mean, clearly my hand is not perfectly steady as I'm doing this exercise, but that makes that line a lot more interesting, I think. It has a lot more character, has some tone to it that you wouldn't get if you were just speeding across. Hopefully you can see the difference between that line and that line. So they both definitely have their uses and their purpose, and sometimes a fast, speedy, almost aggressive line is exactly what you're looking for. But in this moment, let's just really enjoy the process of drawing lines, moving across the page, and seeing kind of what happens as you play with the pressure, how hard you push on your pencil, maybe turning the angle of the tip of the pencil as you're going across the page. And you can get, as you can see, a ton of variety just in the shade and the tone of a single line. That is with an HB pencil, so it's a fairly balanced pencil. If you move in the H direction, which is increasingly hard pencil lead, what you end up with are things like a 2H or a 4H. And yes, all these pencils look different, but that's because they're all different brands. There's no one right brand. I'm not going to tell you you have to use specific tools. No. You can use a number 2 pencil, or just your little Papermate clicky mechanical pencil if that's what suits you. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. None of this matters. It's just pencils and paper. You can't really mess this up. So, for example, this is a 2H pencil. Hopefully, you can see already how light that line is in comparison to the line above it. You just, no matter how hard you push, can not get that much tone onto the paper. And another step beyond that is a 4H pencil. And that line is even lighter. I'm pushing pretty aggressively on the paper and not getting a lot of shade there. That's about as dark as I can get. Moving in the B direction, so remember the middle was HB, that's sort of a balanced pencil. Moving into the H's, 2, 4, 6H, those are really hard, light pencils. Moving in the B direction into the 2, 4, and 6B pencils, you get a nice soft lead. I think these are great for beginning artists because a lot of times people who think that they're not artistic, they tend to hesitate, right? You're afraid that you're going to do it wrong. So people draw their lines really light and delicate, and they're afraid to sort of move onto the page. You don't need to be afraid. These are just lines. You can't mess it up. So go ahead and dig in, which is why I think if you want to invest in a couple pencils, I would suggest maybe a few in the Bs. So this, again, is a 2B pencil. And without really too much effort, I get a nice, rich, dark line. And again, if I play with lightness and angle, I can really change the way that that line looks. Oh, it's so satisfying. Okay, so now let's see what a 4B pencil looks like. So, a 6B pencil. So we're making a bit of a jump. And here's a nice 6B line. Ooh, as you can see, there's a huge difference. It's really soft. You get a thicker line because you can put more of the lead angle itself on the page. And that really adds a lot of tone. And then I have here also, lest you think that these are only evenly numbered, a 7B pencil. So this is the softest pencil that I have. And you can see it's just one step darker than the 6B line itself. It's really enjoyable, and here's a bit more of just what that tone and shade looks like. A little trick for drawing lines, if you want your line to be even a little bit straight and not do what most people who are right-handed tend to do, which is to have their lines sort of curve and drop over to the right, you have to really move your arm from the elbow. You can't move your lines from the wrist, right? If you move from the wrist, you're going to naturally tend to arch. So one thing you want to do is really just think about making a point here and maybe an imaginary point that's balanced over here. And then you actually want to look where you're going, and you want to move your whole arm. You want to really sweep this pencil across the page. And you can get fairly decent straight lines. That maybe it's an okay straight line. It's not perfect, but you know what? Like I said, it doesn't matter. So that's how to draw straight lines. Pretty simple, right? All right, so now what happens if you take that straight line and you curve it? Ooh, see, I'm pushing so hard I broke my pencil. Don't worry about it. That is what sharpeners are for. But in this moment, I'm just going to grab a 2B. So this is going to be a slightly lighter line. And you go like that. There you go. Same thing. It's a line. But now you've intentionally arched that line and you've got a curve. And you know what? Between lines and curves, that's it. You've already mastered the basics of how to draw anything in the world. With lines and curves, you win, right? That's everything. That's an apple, that's a guitar, that's a building, that's a tree. It doesn't matter what you want to draw. If you can draw a line and a curve, then it's just a matter of joining them into different combinations and extremes of those lines. So you can see that very quickly you can start making sort of interesting shapes, zags and zigs, but it's all just lines and curves. Really, it's that simple. One other exercise that I really love to encourage people to do, it's called the sphere drawing. It's just a way to sort of loosen up your hand and take out any tension and any concern that you might have that you're doing it wrong. And I like to do a little like shimmy shimmy. So get all the tension out and you approach your paper and you just start drawing curves and you connect them into a sphere and you just go for it. I mean, really, like, make this as dark and aggressive as you possibly want or can, and just make this as black ball on your page. You cannot mess this up. Like I said, it's super enjoyable, super good tension reliever, and it hopefully, encourages you to know that you can't do this wrong, that it's just about having fun. And look at what you've done. You've made a whole page of interesting shapes, interesting lines, different tones, different pressures. There's a lot that you can accomplish with just a single pencil, a couple lines, and a couple curves. Now, I definitely encourage you to start practicing this in your free time. And if you want to be a little subversive, I encourage you to practice it at work. So on the margins of your papers or on your lunch break, grab a notebook or just some, copy paper out of the printer and start drawing lines. See what happens and, have fun. Don't encourage any pressure on yourself. Just enjoy this process and know that it's going somewhere, right? Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Lines and curves, very basic. And next lesson, we're going to move into gesture drawing, which is sort of an expansion on the sphere. We're going to turn that into something. And I want to hear about what you guys are doing. So if you want to take pictures, find me on Twitter or on Instagram, or you can check out my website, artof9to5.com. And of course, use the hashtag art of9to5 or art for engineers. I really look forward to seeing your lessons. I really look forward to seeing your exercises. And I really look forward to seeing you next time. So I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Looking forward to the next lesson. All right. Bye, guys.